Hey y'all, this is old Jesse. Um, so let's start with morals, part number two. Bible moral number two. Um, do what God says. That's pretty simple. That that starts with Genesis, with male and female Adam and Eve, and in the serpent in the garden. The simplicity of it is do what God says. Otherwise, there's going to be problems. Okay? And so the simplicity of it is like, you do what God says, good things happen. It's not hard. If you look at Israel and the Middle East and why the Middle East is the way it is, it's because the Jews didn't fight and kill the Palestinians thousands of years ago. So now they're still fighting them. If you look at, why humanity has so much chaos, it's because Adam and Eve didn't listen. They made a choice, and that choice became hereditary, and now the whole human race suffers. So, the seriousness of it is do what God says. As a person, human being, I completely understand it's not possible all the time. Whether we're too tired, too sick, too grumpy, bad attitude, can't be in two places at the same time, what have you, within reason, do what God says as much as possible. That's all we can do. We're human, we're dying creatures. We're limited in what we know and what we're capable of, to some extent. I mean, we're still growing, even at my age. I've got gray hair in the beard, and well, actually, I don't got too many. I got bags underneath my eyes, but not too many wrinkles. A couple wrinkles on my forehead, and messed up hair. But it's very important to do what God says. And it's not about being perfect. It's not about hating other people that don't. Really, doing what God says is not about hating what other people that don't. I mean, to some extent you will, because you're told not to associate it with it, and told these certain things are bad and evil and sins and stuff like that. So there's going to be but you're not going to walk around all day just, oh, I hate this person, I hate that person, blah, blah, blah. No. Christians and Jews don't think like that. We think in terms of, hey, I got a life to live. I have a lot of stuff that I have to pay attention to in my own life. And, that makes us self-centered. We're centered around our personal activities, the activities of our spouses and of our kids and of our extended family, both the older generation and the younger generation. We're centered around our social circle of what we're going to do. And to some extent, we pay attention to politics and to the world news and stuff. Okay? And so that you have to realize, because I've heard this from folks that, that thought that all Christians did was condemn other people all the time. And maybe there's some sour Christians out there, there are. It's possible. But one of the things that I found is that there's this almost near constant hatred and angst from folks that didn't choose a God toward Bible believers. And it's yeah, we don't think what you're doing is right, but we're not caught in an endless loop of just hatred over it. You know, like it's not right. I don't want to really be around it, but I'm not caught in a. I don't hate you every day for it. You know, like I don't have enough energy to hate you every day. And in fact, you might be doing something really bad, and you just happen to be a person I like. And maybe that's not the best choice on my part, right? But that's the truth of Christianity, is it's very friendly. And even folks that we're told not to like, we end up liking because we're human beings, you know? So that's kind of a scary thing if you're surrounded by bad people. But it is the way it is, because we human beings, while we could have that, we could put in the energy and the effort to hate everybody, we don't. Christians don't. I don't think Jews do either. Jews put more worry into, you know, how am I going to survive than they do into hatred. And trust me, those folks are, that's not a fun way to be born into the world right now. Not until Jesus returns, you know, or unless you move to Israel. Like, it's not fun to be a Jew in the diaspora. So the biggest issue with the second moral is, like, human chaos. The sin in our hearts is rebellious against following and doing what God says. And that's kind of a big thing, you know, like, so how do you conquer that, you know? How do you conquer your own heart, your own emotions? And I would say the easiest way is by repetition, by repeating. Repeatedly try to do good things. It's like when I remember the first time I got to drive a car. And as soon as I got my driver's license, I was driving over the speed limit. I can tell you that was the most fun I have ever had. It's fun to go fast. Okay? For every individual, that extreme joy of doing something bad is different. For some folks, it's sex. For some folks, it's, you know, video games and smoking pot. For some folks, it's alcohol. For some folks, it's just talking dirty, you know, saying cuss words and stuff and talking dirty. You know, like, for some folks, it's gossip. For some folks, it's hatred. For some folks, it's that chaos manifests in homosexuality and stuff like that. Okay? We live in a world that is not perfect. The humans in it are not perfect. You know? And so, you know, we have to follow a God that is perfect. Okay? A Messiah that is the peak of human perfection. You know, to the point of becoming a God. Lowercase letters. A God, not the God. Okay? So, because that's what Elohim are, by the way. Angels are of the race of gods. Okay? So, the thing with following a God is, you know, like, and you have to do what God says, because, well, he's a strict God. He punishes people, you know, like, there's consequences to not doing right. And you have to say, okay, all right, that's a hard thing. I don't really like these bad consequences. And then the observant person, the person that is wise and knowledgeable and world savvy, is going to look at their life and say, okay, if I don't do this once, what's going to happen? Maybe nothing will happen the first time or the second time. I can tell you, like, for instance, if you become a habitual liar, eventually most of the people that were in your family or that you liked growing up will shun you, right? There's very few rare instances where they won't. If you become a raging alcoholic, you're going to lose a lot of friends. You might make some friends party drinking, but they're not going to be of a very high caliber, you know? They're not going to be of a good moral character, right? And so, you kind of gotta think of that, and what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do as a person to get over your, like, gut instinct of, I don't want to do this. I know I need to. I know it's right, but I don't want to. Okay? How are you gonna do that? How are you gonna get over that? And the easiest way is to start by logically looking at your life. What does the culmination of good decisions do for you? If I don't lie to folks in social circumstances, what's that going to do for you? You will be trusted as an honest person, and that's that's a good thing. Okay? If you don't cheat, well, then you won't be known to be a cheater. If you don't steal, then your friends will lend you stuff, and your family will not be afraid to lend you stuff. Okay? So these things are like, think about it. Think about it. Like, the first moral of the Bible, or the second moral of the Bible, other than having a God, is do what God says. Do what God says. And if you do what God says, like Jesus chose to, then what happened with that? Right? That was the ultimate culmination of good things in a person's life. You get eternal life. You get to be called a son, not the son, but a son, or a daughter of God. You get to be called righteous. And you get to be respected. Even if the people of the world may talk bad about you, they do it because they respect righteous people, right? Sometimes you'll get that one person that is a kind of a crap stirrer, and that might get in your way and cause you a problem intentionally, because that's the way they are. That's their human chaos, right? But a lot of times, and I've found that folks are very, if I don't use a lot of swear words, folks are very polite to me. If I don't thieve from them, then I'm trusted to go to their house, and they don't even, I get asked to watch people's places and stuff like that, right? So there's a very big difference between, like, the consistency of doing what God says all the time, and human inconsistent nature, where you're not really like trustworthy socially, or societally, and that's kind of a, that's a problem. So let's consider this and try to make a good decision in our lives, and talk to our kids about it, because like this is something that I've talked to with my kids about, and I've tried to teach them, and I hope they remember. And it's being a good person and choosing to do what God says changes your life, and puts you in touch with the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of the world, the Spirit of Yahweh He that guides all things. And that's a very, very potent ally to have. Yahweh He will be your ally if you do what He says. And you will survive through the resurrection and through Armageddon and the day of judgment if you do what Yahweh He says. And that's a big thing. Now, I don't happen to believe in the ever-burning soul in hell. So there's no downside to believing in the God of the Bible. That doesn't exist for me. For other folks that are Christian, that's a difference of opinion, and well, it's something you're going to have to overcome. I believe in a temple age on the earth. I believe that, at the resurrection, Jesus is going to divide between the just and the unjust, and the unjust ones will be slain with a sword and piled up to rot in the valley of Ben Hinnom, and then their remains, after the worms are done with them, will be burnt on a wood fire until they're completely ashes. And that's what I believe about the bad. And so, like, okay, so you're going to die twice. Painful. It's not eternal. It's a terrible punishment, especially in the face of eternity. But on the other hand, the righteousness of eternity vastly outweighs. It's a wonderful reward compared to the punishment, right? Because the punishment isn't forever. It's like done and over with, and then you don't exist anymore, versus an eternity that is quite good. So all you have to do is do what God says, and you get this wonderful benefit. And so think about that, and consider morals, consider embracing God's morals, consider doing what God says. Do the commands of Yahweh He. It's worth it. It's worth it.